Good morning. Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Hope you all had a good weekend. Not sure if this is reason for concern, but I've had a message here saying, let's have a look. Where are we? It says, morning, y'all, and it's from a Facebook user. I'm going to guess that is probably Dan Cullen. For some reason, his name's not coming through. Now, I don't know if he's done something at his end or whether I've done something at mine, but either way, I can't see his name. Good morning to all of those over on Instagram, including Armando PC and Dan Pountney, rather. Let's have a look. Ken Diggerman. Yes, he has joined us over on Instagram, which means I guess that might mean that things might still be playing up over on Facebook. For that, I can only apologise. I don't think it's anything that I'm doing, but it's hard to tell sometimes. How was your weekend? Yesterday, lunch for 20. Yeah, lunch for 20. It was my in-laws' 60th wedding anniversary, which was about 6 weeks ago, actually. But they put it back for very good reason, because my nephew, Harvey, is off to Australia. He's going to Australia for 2 years. And yesterday was kind of a farewell to him and an anniversary for my in-laws as well. So good luck to Harvey. Congratulations to my in-laws as well. And good morning, says Ken Hatcher, who has got some weather down in Welsh Wales. It is Dan Cullen over on Facebook. I don't know why it's not showing who it is, but it is Dan Cullen. Morning, Dan. We've got a new mystery machine for you to guess. As it stands at the moment, I can tell you that Dan and I are on equal pegging this month. He has 6 points and I have 6 points. We've got a new one for you today, so hopefully he won't get it, because I'd quite like to go into the lead. That would be awfully good. So should we crack on with the show? I think we probably should. Loads and loads to get through this morning. So let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. Yeah, just to make sure that the question of the day went through. Yes, it did indeed. That's good news. Good morning. It is Monday, the 11th of November. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the walrus of demolition. In today's show, we're going to get the lowdown on the bucket business from those fine folks at DigBits. John Deere gets articulated. We're connecting maps with Volvo. Caterpillar is rebuilding mining trucks down under. And we have a bonus blast all the way from Germany. Plus, in my morning monologue today, we're going to be looking at the numerous global and industry lessons from the recent past that continue to go unheeded. We'll get to all of that in just a moment. But first, we do have that small matter of today's mystery machine. So let me roll the animation, and then I'll show you what it is you have to work with. As always with the Mystery Machine, we are looking for you to identify the following by make and model, if you would be so kind. That is what you're working with so far. Not even sure I can tell you what type of machine that is based on that photograph, but we'll be revealing more in the fullness of time. But have you got any idea what that is? Make and model, if you would be so kind. As already mentioned, it currently stands Dan Cullen's on 6 points. I'm on 6 points. So today could be a decider, or we could have a new winner. We shall see. We shall see. Somebody else described themselves as Facebook user. I wonder if that is still Dan Cullen. I don't know. But Dan is now over on YouTube, and he reckons that machine could be an EC300 from Volvo. It is not one of those. It is not one of those. And there's somebody over on Instagram just joined us called Living a Plumber's Life. Is that a good thing? Is it good to live a plumber's life? Well, it's quite fancy a dog's life, eat, sleep, repeat. But what's it like living a plumber's life? Love to hear from you. We will reveal more of that in just a moment. But first, I do need to remind you very quickly of our question of the day. Yeah, there we are. Our question of the day today is very, very simply, what is your favourite season? What is your favourite season? Oh, personally, I love spring, renewal and all that kind of thing. I quite like summer, although it can get a bit hot, and I hate trying to sleep during a hot night. But I'm going to go, my personal favourite, autumn. That's fall to any of our US viewers, including Chayton Maycott, who is in town. The colours, the smell, the food of autumn, that's my personal favourite. But what about you? Love to get your feelings on that. Now, Ken, over on Instagram reckons that our mystery machine, he has identified that he says is a Volvo exhaust. He's right, it is, but I need more. We've already got a couple of Volvo guesses. There's one from Dan, which was the EC300. He's also going for the EC360. It is neither of those things. So here's a smidge more. There you are. But Ken Hatcher, you're on the money with the type of machine, or the make anyway, but we need a model. Not entirely sure who this is because it says Facebook user again. Somebody's going for autumn. It's cooling down to a nice temperature, drying up from the summer rainy season, and I can think of tree planting. I reckon, based on the tree planting bit, that is probably Jim Turner. And there's another one there. Spring, hopefully summer's on the way, and light mornings. Yeah, there is that. And it's also the season for ploughing matches, so some nice days out too. I think that is almost certainly Jim Turner. Don't know why the names aren't coming through on over from Facebook today. Not entirely sure what's going on there. We do have another guest there from Dan Cullen. Reckons that could be an EC145. It is not an EC145. There's a bit more. That might narrow it down just a touch. If anybody's got any clues on that, I'd love to hear from you. That probably was sent before Dan even saw that, but he's going for the EWR 130E from Volvo. It is not one of those. I'm going to take that away because it is time to press on with the show. So let's start with a bit of this. That's an interesting one. I'm not sure who's saying that, but they can see each other's names. I'll fire Facebook up in a second in the background so that I can see it as well. But bizarrely, we've just recently, won't bore you with the details, but when I schedule this show, I have to schedule where it is I'm going to broadcast to. So LinkedIn and YouTube and Twitch and all those places. And for the last week and a half, I reckon, possibly even longer than that, every single time I tell it to go to Facebook, I get an error message that then corrects itself. So, and quite clearly, I am broadcasting to Facebook, but for some reason, the message isn't coming back. So I'll fire that up in the background in a second. Good morning. No work. That site I was sent off to. I have no work. I'm going to take a wild stab. I will fire that up in a second. I reckon that is probably our friend Footy as well. So we've got, that is the latest guess on the mystery machine. It is not one of those. Let me take that away because we do have our first film of the day. And I need to dredge this one off of my hard drive because it's quite a big file. So bear with me 1 second. Just while I find it. Got to be here somewhere. Now that is very, very odd indeed. No, I found it. It's okay. Yes, DigBits. Yes, we went to see DigBits on our way up to JCB a couple of weeks ago. Sorry, distracted a little bit. But here is the DigBits film. This is a short version. We've actually got a longer version coming, and we've got a podcast coming as well. But here is the short version, just to whet your appetite a little bit.
Kind of just treated as get 3 of them free with a new digger when you buy it. We're here where the holes have been dug in the UK. We're not 6 to 8 weeks away in the Far East. My name is Marcus Clay. I am a director of DigBits Limited. The bucket is literally at the sharp end of the machine. It's fundamental. It's like tyres on a racing car or a racing motorcycle. You know, it really is that important. It's It's not a disposable part of it, so you really want something that you can rely on and depend on. I think that there's a trend, particularly with owner-operators and some of the more progressive plant firms, they're kitting machines out, ever more sophisticated and customised ways. Because we're here where the holes are being dug in the UK, we're not 6 to 8 weeks away in the Far East, we can respond quickly to custom requirements. We can deal with things much faster. All of the wear parts on the buckets being easily replaceable. There's no proprietary tooth systems on our buckets. We've always tried to keep the wear parts available. We build all the buckets that we sell, every single one, 100% of them, from the smallest to the biggest. Most of the powered attachments as well we build. We can react to specific requirements, whether it's the new building regulations which require different foundation trench widths, or whether it's different site conditions in different areas. Because we have a very good stock of buckets, so quite a lot of the common things, certainly for the mini excavators and micro excavators, we carry quite a bit of stock. We can hit any custom requirement fast. That's really where we do come in, because our factory is close to where you're digging a hole. It's not a long way away by ship. We're like your favourite cafe. We don't know how every customer wants their eggs when they come through the door, but we've got all the ingredients, we can make it, and we can do it quick, and we can do it right, and when it goes out it's going to be right and it will last. It doesn't need any further thought. It's a do it and forget it sort of purchase.
I have to say, mightily impressed when I went up to DigBits. I hadn't been there for a long time, a good couple of decades, in fact. But very, very impressed. And part of the conversation that we had there was how little thought apparently seems to go into buckets. We get awfully excited about some of the more fancy attachments, shears, pulverizers, grabs, grapples, all that kind of thing, plus the tilt rotators, plus the quick hitches and all that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, a lot of machines are out there doing the digging, which will require a bucket. I think we need to be putting more thought into the buckets. And certainly, as Marcus Clay just said, if you want something special, a special bucket, special width, special build, whatever it might be, give DigBits a call. They're not paying me to say that. I'm just saying, if you want a proper bucket to match your proper machine, give them a call. Now, we're going back to the mystery machine. We've had more guesses. Dan Cullen reckons it could be an EWR180E. I've just got the wrong layout on here. Bear with me 1 second. That's the one we want. It's not one of those. It's also not an EWR150E. So keep the guesses coming in. I think we all know exactly what type of machine or what make of model machine it is. We just need the correct make, if you would be so kind. I'm going to take that away from the studio because everything's getting a bit cluttered up. I'll be right back with more in just a second.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
So Dan Cullen's gone for the mystery machine. He is going for the EW160. It's not. And our Facebook user says a Volvo EC250EL. If I'm right, how do I get the points? It's a good question. We'll need some sort of verification system this morning because I can't actually see who you are. All I will say is that's not the right answer anyway. So let me show you a bit more because it's only fair. And there we are. That is the machine we're after. Keep the guesses coming in. Take that away, and I'm going to take that away because it is time to go all things articulated with the fine folks at John Deere.
The auto articulation feature allows the operator to have the increased maneuverability of coordinated steering while only using the steering control on the joystick or fingertip options. This feature works in gears 1 through 5, forward and reverse. When the grader is shifted higher than 5th gear, auto articulation goes into standby mode. Auto articulation does not command articulation until the steering is moved outside of 7 degrees. This allows the operator to make fine adjustments while grading in a straight line without articulation disrupting the finished grade. This feature is activated on the SSM by pressing the highlighted button. This button is a 3-function switch. The first position enables the joystick lever steering. The second position enables auto articulation to work in forward and reverse, and the third position works in forward only. Auto articulation has 4 states: off, enabled, standby, and active. Off versus enabled is determined by the position of the SSM switch. Standby is identified by gray motor grader icons on the monitor with the word auto above. When the criteria is met, auto articulation will be active and identified by green motor grader icons with the word auto above. If the word auto is not present, auto articulation is either off or disabled. An override and reactivation feature allows the operator to manually articulate and the system to automatically reactivate when steering and articulation align. When the manual articulation is applied, the motor grader icons on the monitor turn gray, indicating auto articulation is in standby. When the grader meets the reactivation criteria, the icons will turn green. To realign the steering, the operator will need to use the joystick steering function. The steering wheel will not accomplish this. If the steering wheel is used to change the steering angle more than 10 degrees, auto articulation will disable. This is indicated in the monitor by gray motor grader icons without the word auto above. The feature will need to be re-enabled on the SSM or by holding the return to straight function for more than half a second.
So should you ever find yourself at the controls of a John Deere grader, you'll know exactly how to operate it. Mystery Machine, I can tell you we do have a correct answer. We have a lot of wrong answers, but we have the correct answer. So let me go through some of these. Dan Cunning is going for the EW180E, 150E, the 160. I think that is probably Jim Turner going for the EC250EL. It is not. The EW240, it is not. The Volvo L190, it is not. The L190H, it is not. Not one of those, not one of those, not one of those, not one of those, not one of those. It is, in fact, it is one of, when I can find it, kind of one of those. It is actually an L180H, but I think you'd have to be an absolute swine of a pedant to insist on that. Let's have a look. There you are. That is an L180H from Volvo. So Dan Cullen, you're back in the lead. And apparently it was Chris Ford's guess, but it was wrong anyway, so it doesn't matter. So Dan Cullen, you've got 9 points. I've got 6 points, and nobody else has any points at all. It is still early in the month, but Dan Cullen does have a nasty habit of building an unassailable lead. Hopefully by tomorrow, things will be back to normal, and I'll be able to see who I'm speaking to. In the meantime, I'm just going to have to guess via your spelling and tone of voice and stuff like that, which is not particularly easy, I have to say. We'll be right back after this. We've had somebody saying morning all. Whoever said morning all, I don't know who you are. My apologies. For some reason, I'm not getting your names at the moment, and I can't get Facebook to play nice either. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on with that. But whoever you are, good morning. I'm going to guess you're probably one of our regulars, but thank you very much indeed for being here. If you want to clarify who you are, then please do so. While you're doing that, I'm going to hop on over to All Things Technological. We're doing it in the company of those fine folks, Volvo.
I'm Jenny Olsen. I'm a product manager with Volvo Construction Equipment. Connected Map is a digital tool that gives you full visibility to your complete job site for your operators, your office staff, and even visitors. If you have Volvo Copilot installed on the machines, you can install the Connected Map for all your operators to see each other, as the machines will share real-time location data with each other on the site. The tool is very flexible. If you have the Volvo Copilot in the cab, you can use that. If you don't, you can install a so-called generic Copilot or run it from a tablet. The map is very easy to edit. You can make quick changes and send them to all machines instantly. Two great safety features with Connected Map is the restricted zones and the speed zones. The restricted zones is an area where operators are not allowed to go. You can easily set up a restricted zone around a dangerous area, and as soon as a machine would enter, the operator would get a warning to leave the area immediately. A speed zone can be set up for your complete site or for a part of your job site. For example, if you have a maintenance building with people walking around, you can set up a speed zone around the maintenance building. Volvo machines can be set up to automatically reduce and keep.
Oh dear. Yeah, we do have some issues this morning, I think. Not entirely sure why. I'll come back to that one at some point in the future. I'm going to go over to the chat because that's been very busy. Was going to say question of the day, salt and pepper. It's not seasoning, it's season. Bear with me 1 second. 919920. Just trying to figure out what's going on with Facebook. Yeah, I think that seems to be okay. My apologies. Let's have a look. Yeah, Gremlins are back. Yeah, the Gremlins are playing silly buggers. I like this invisible mode. We could call you from a pig to a dog, and we'd be in it. But listen, you wouldn't be the first, and I wouldn't take it personally. I'm way beyond that. I think that was Peter McKenna, and he was Peter. Thank you very much indeed for that. Let's have a look. See if I can actually figure out what's going on here. That's the wrong one. Let me have a look. See if I can actually see Facebook now. Yeah, even that's not particularly good. According to this, I only have 3 comments on the show so far. I don't know what the hell's going on. Very, very strange indeed. Yeah, it doesn't matter. We'll crack up. We'll crack on. I'll give it all a reboot after the show, and hopefully that will figure it all out. Now, let me go back to. Let me take that away. See, it only takes one thing to throw me off my train of thought. Yeah, we're rebuilding trucks down under with the fine folks at Caterpillar in just a moment, but we'll be right back after this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Very kind of you to offer. I'm guessing that's Peter. If you want to give it a reboot, you can use my boot to boot it. I may have to do that. I'll remove the veil of secrecy and go to YouTube. That might help, actually, just to identify people. It's really, really strange. Now, that's a really weird thing. So I can watch this on various YouTube accounts. And I looked at it on my own account. Wasn't seeing all the comments. Looked at it on Diggers and Dozers. Wasn't seeing all the comments. Gone to Demolition News. And there they are. Chris Ford is there. Mick is there as well. Mick has just said, on a better note, I was in the yard over the weekend. See the prices scrap crept up a bit. Yeah, absolutely. Always welcome. Unfortunately, they always do go in cycles, don't they? It's only a matter of time before they plummet again, I would imagine. But yes, we do seem to have shaken loose whatever the issue is with the comments. So let's go rebuilding truck, shall we? And we're heading down under. I'm going to have to take myself out of the background for this one because it's for some reason they've produced it as a narrow format, but it's a good film. Have a watch.
Caterpillar has been successfully rebuilding machines and their parts for over 100 years and launched its certified rebuild program in 1985. Performed by Cat dealers, a Cat certified rebuild gives a machine a whole new life, with opportunities to elevate it to current technology standards in the process.
The reason we rebuild a haul truck as opposed to buying new, first and foremost, is capital expenditure. We're able to rebuild a haul truck for less money than a brand new truck would cost.
The average physical availability of one of our haul trucks is about 93%. So it's a way to save on capital, but it's also a way to provide a reliable piece of equipment.
In 2006, when Freeport Mining Company chose to implement rebuilds into their operations, they engaged Caterpillar and their local Cat dealer, Empire, to establish best practices and to help ensure the greatest outcomes from the Freeport Rebuild program.
Back in 2006, when Freeport and Empire and Caterpillar came together to really launch the truck rebuild program, we really wanted to focus on process efficiencies to help develop and control the quality of the throughput. Empire and Freeport worked on creating a strong process together as a team to get a very durable and reliable product through the truck rebuild program.
Freeport has rebuilt 287 trucks using Empire alone. Then globally, we have rebuilt just over 400 units.
We've got the process down to about 72 days now. So when the client turns over their key, they have their truck back in production in 72 days. It's an exceptional turnaround time.
Typically, our target for a rebuild is 100,000 hours. And we're actually going beyond that with new builds that we've just completed.
Going into a haul truck rebuild, we look at multiple different things, specifically the frame health. And that's a leading indicator of the health of the truck.
We put a lot of material and design analysis into those frames to make sure they can go through multiple rebuilds. Empire will disassemble the components and look at what's reusable, what's salvageable.
Having a 100% Cat truck makes it much easier.
It really allows us to improve efficiency and life of the drivetrain, transmissions, engines, the structures, the electrical. All of that allows us to get a lower total cost of ownership for our customer.
That's some of the value of the Caterpillar chain. Parts are generally supported by the dealer and by Caterpillar for a long time after they've gone out of production. So they get to standardized components, and then they get 15 years of production at new levels of performance.
Back in 2020 and 2021, Caterpillar, Freeport, and Empire got together and talked about what solutions with rebuilds and technology could we use to help deliver better greenhouse gas results. One of the technologies that we talked about was our autonomous haulage solutions.
Baghdad is one of our copper operations that runs 24/7, 365.
We're moving their existing fleet into the autonomous fleet, which will be the first mine in the U.S. to actually have autonomy.
It will make our trucks more efficient, which will reduce our on-site emissions, thus making it more possible for us to hit our greenhouse gas goals.
They operate 34 haul trucks with the idea to transition to 31 with the autonomous fleet.
Some of the trucks will be rebuilt here at Empire, sent to Baghdad and be part of that autonomous fleet.
And at the same time, there's a dual process going on where running trucks are getting the command-ready conversion at site.
The conversions are happening in the TRP process as well. So they're full-blown command-ready when they leave here, and it just shows that Cat's committed to running these all the way through the life cycle on these products.
We expect the autonomous fleet to be more productive than a manned haulage fleet.
You have less operational delays related to having an operator on the truck. So the truck is going to run more hours between PMs, which makes it more efficient. There's a safety component to autonomous where you have an operator out of a truck now and the truck is operating on its own.
It gives us the ability to put a piece of equipment where we're not necessarily comfortable putting in an operator. Also, it's been hard for us, Baghdad specifically, to find operators to run the haul truck fleet. So this will give us the ability to repurpose the operators and have them fill other needs that we do have at the mine site. Another thing that we've done within this autonomous project is transition our fleet over to MineStar as a management system. This was a big change for us, and we were able to leverage our partnership with both Empire and Caterpillar to help with the change management process on the front end of the project. When we actually did go live in early April, it was as seamless as it could possibly have been.
Cat's heavily involved in the training with the site run teams as well. we'll joint venture to help the client be successful in the transition. And if we're successful here, it'll show the value of the CAT product across the rest of the sites.
Freeport has a very strong relationship with Empire. They're very much so integrated into our daily business and help us meet our mining needs.
What I'm most proud of is the partnership, the people, and the process. We couldn't ask for a better partner in this.
Freeport has a long-standing relationship with Caterpillar. They provide us equipment, but more so, they provide us with solutions to solve our mining needs.
The support with parts and logistics and engineering resources. It's a really collaborative effort between all parties, and I think the success of the program really reflects that effort.
Caterpillar will continue to support the deep focus and synergies that Freeport and Empire and Caterpillar have created with the truck rebuild program.
Nice film. Nice rebuilds. Thank you very much indeed for the message, Peter. I'll have a look on WhatsApp in just a moment. We were talking about all things metal related. That is Peter McKenna saying CAT service trucks are better worldwide than they are in the UK. I agree. I don't know how well this is going to display because I can't get it off my phone at the moment, but bear with me 1 second. I'll see if I can show you. That is what Peter is talking about. There you go. Can you see that? Probably, maybe. Yeah, very nice too. Very nice too. Yeah, we were talking about all things metal and about the hike or slight hike in prices. Sound, I better get stripping all the odds and ends I've got kicking around. I think that is Jim Turner. Can't be absolutely sure. Good idea. Knowing the metal market as I do, the Christmas around the corner, there may be a drop. Interesting to know why there may be a drop. They usually drop it around Christmas to account for the Christmas bonus weigh-in. Yes, that's what we're calling it now. Is it the Christmas bonus weigh-in? Let's have a look. So saying that, Jim, if the MOD does get a boost, then it will get better. Lots and lots of stuff going on here. Did notice that iron was 170, but the yard was empty. Think the boys who are holding on to it better get it in soon. Was told a couple of years ago that copper is about to go sky high. That's why I've just held on to it. And true, Jim, but China cut the scrap market import down. India is buying. It is indeed. I've got one more film to show you. It's a very short one. It is demolition related, and I'll be back with that in just a second.
Hi, I'm Holly. Join Mark Anthony on The Breakfast Show. We are Ovenden.
What have we got here? Somebody saying, why doesn't everyone else transfer to diggers and dozers, Mark? Can see who you are then. Well, I can now see you on Demolition News. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to have to work harder, I think, at getting the link up and running. It's beyond my control, to be perfectly honest, but if I keep trying it, hopefully I'll be able to shake it loose. Yes, one more film, and then I've got my morning monologue. And oddly enough, while I've been speaking today, or while I've been doing the show today, something else has just come into my news feed that kind of relates to it. So I'll come back to that in just a moment. But brace yourselves, we're going to Germany, going to Hanover or Hamburg, one of those. It begins with an H, for a big blast. There you are. Very quick blast. That pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to go over to my morning monologue in just a moment. Did I not AI Friday's Craic session? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. If you go to buymeacoffee.com/demolition news, you will see it there. It's called The Recap. And yes, I most certainly did do that. Given the way technology is working this morning, I'm just going to have a very quick look and make sure it is there. Do come along. It is there indeed. In fact, it's had 30 views, which, bearing in mind it's behind a paywall. Well, it's not behind a paywall. You don't have to pay, but you need to be invited to see it. It's had 30 views. So lots of people have seen it. I don't know how you've missed it, whoever you are, but have a look. Peter McKenna says scrap prices always fall on the way up to Christmas. Chris Ford, they then start creeping up in the new year. EMR stockpiling scrap as we speak. Unless I did listen but forget. I forgot. You can't forget the recap. It's one of the highlights of the show, to be perfectly honest with you. And now, as I say, I am going to roll the outro in just a second. I'm going to leap gazelle-like over into my morning monologue. If you can't stick around for that, then do please stay safe. I hope I'll be able to get the show fixed before tomorrow. Look after yourself in the meantime, and your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Hope to see you again very soon. But if you do have the time and the inclination, please stick around, because I want to talk about lessons that go unheeded. Back after this. We live in an age where we're constantly told that we should learn from our... I want to do that again. Let's start this properly. We live in an age where we're constantly told to learn from the past, but history is crowded with crises that suggest otherwise. Take the COVID-19 pandemic, for example. When the virus began its relentless spread around the world, national governments scrambled for answers, hastily explaining their lack of preparedness with a familiar refrain. There is no playbook for this, we were told. 4 years on, how much has changed? Are we better prepared for another pandemic? Or are we still clinging to the belief that the last one was some kind of once-in-a-century or once-in-a-lifetime anomaly? The truth is, we've fallen short, just like other industries with grand declarations to change, only to find themselves in the same traps over and over again. The construction industry is no stranger to lessons that went unlearned. When Carillion collapsed, for example, it shocked an entire sector. Here was one of the largest companies in the industry, managing hundreds of millions of pounds, trusted to carry out infrastructure projects that would shape our towns and cities. And yet, it all fell apart, leaving subcontractors in financial ruin and employees without a job. The leaders, politicians, and even rivals all swore we'd never let it happen again. This, they said, is a watershed moment. We'll introduce safeguards, be more transparent, and take a closer look at the health of our supply chains. But what happened? ISG. ISG followed with similarly catastrophic collapse. The promises made in the aftermath of Carillion turned out to be as hollow as the foundations of those fallen giants. And if you don't believe me, take a look at the news currently surrounding house builder Vistry. £1 billion wiped off its value in a single day, and 2 profit warnings in as many months. Would anyone be surprised to see them heading down the same path to the industry scrap heap sometime in the near future? It's easy to blame these cycles on unprecedented events, to say that no one could have seen the signs. But history tells a different story. We've faced pandemics before. We've seen industry empires collapse. And each time there's a call to remember the lessons, to ensure that we're better prepared. But preparedness isn't just a word. It requires action, discipline, and often a willingness to spend a little extra in the short term to secure the future. So we have to ask ourselves, why aren't we learning? Why do we treat each new crisis as though it's the first of its kind? And one answer might lie in the very nature of these crises. Pandemics and corporate collapses alike expose uncomfortable truths. COVID-19 revealed that despite all our technological advances, we are still vulnerable to nature. Carillion and ISG's failures revealed that despite all of our talk of economic growth, the foundations of our financial structures remain precarious, balancing risk upon risk. And the fact is, acknowledging these truths mean we'd need to make fundamental change. And that's hard, much harder than simply claiming we'll do better next time and hoping that the next crisis won't come. We need to ask ourselves whether we're willing to invest in real change or if we're content with the illusion of progress. Are governments setting aside the resources for pandemic preparedness, or is it merely a line item that looks good on paper? Are construction companies creating robust financial models and prioritizing ethical standards? Or are they just waiting for the next crisis to unfold before they utter another set of empty promises? Take a look at what happened after Carillion. How many companies and how many individuals were genuinely held accountable? How many meaningful regulations were passed? And most importantly, how many lessons were actually learned? And while we're thinking about the failed learning opportunities from Carillion, ISG, and the COVID-19 pandemic, let's not forget about other disasters like Grenfell, Didcot. Years after both of those incidents cost lives, we're still waiting for the necessary changes to be made. The sad truth is we're all too often bound to repeat the mistakes of the past because, frankly, it's easier that way. Real change requires not just the willingness to look backward, but also to take those insights and apply them in the here and the now. It means accepting that preparedness has a cost, one that doesn't show up on balance sheets or in quarterly profits, but pays dividends in times of crisis. Yet in our relentless drive for growth, the present always seems to overshadow the future. So if there's one lesson we can draw from both the pandemic and these corporate collapses, it's that declarations of change mean nothing without the courage to act. To prevent the next Carillion or the next COVID-level disaster, we need to abandon the mindset that each crisis is unique, that each failure is somehow unforeseeable. Because while each of these events may be distinct, the patterns they reveal are as old as time. We say we're learning, but are we really? Or are we just rehearsing or rehashing the same excuses? Just on the same subject, going back to Vistry, they've issued 2 profit warnings in as many months. How many suppliers and subcontractors are still queuing up to work with them literally right now? And if they are, and I'm sure they are, what reassurances have they been offered? And I also mentioned the fact, when I can get to the right part of the page, ISG. So 2 things. There you are. Let me bring this up on the screen. Share screen, and it is that one. There you are. The collapse of ISG brings down a glazing contractor. Administrators called in at Vitrine Systems, blaming the collapse of ISG for the demise of the architectural and structural glazing specialist. So we all know what happened with ISG, much the same as happened with Carillion. So that's story number 1. Have a look at this. Let me take that one away and get rid of that. And let me show you another one, which is this. Former ISG director joins Waits as regional construction MD. Former ISG Northern Construction Director Wayne Flannery has taken a new senior role as Waits Managing Director of Construction at the firm's West Region. Now, I am not for one moment suggesting that what was his name? Wayne Flannery was in any way responsible for the collapse of ISG. I'm sure he's very, very good at his job. But the fallout from ISG is still happening. It's gone from one job to another. Vistry is 2 profit warnings in 2 months, and £1 billion wiped off its value since October, since the beginning of October. And yet we carry on regardless. Is that really sensible? Now I'm going to go back to let's have a look. Somebody saying, one day people will never die, there will just be an AI version of their former self. Frankly, an AI version of me would be much more efficient, I think. One of the reasons they're stockpiling the cost of shipping at the moment, also the state of the bloody world. Well, indeed. Just being told, the job starts Monday. I'm working on a prison, doing a job for Kia. Big job, ending up 3 years of work there if it happens. Don't know who that is, but good luck with that. I have to do a DBS check as well. Good luck with that as well. EMR filled 2 ships last month that are now anchored off the coast of Africa. Well, once the cost of scrap rises, they'll set sail for China to offload at a huge profit. Happens every year. Is that right? Blame Boris for the shutdown. Wasn't needed. The whole COVID episode was a waste of time and overstated. If nothing else was implemented too late. I'm not entirely sure it was overstated because, millions of people did die, but I take your point. Peter, look at Lloyd's list. You'll see there more than that laying at anchor. If that's the way that the world works, I'm sure that is the case. But just going back to my diatribe this morning. So let me draw you an analogy, because I always like an analogy, and most of my analogies do seem to be revolve around all things football. You are the manager of a football team. Doesn't matter who they are, doesn't matter what level they are, but you're a manager of a football team. And results start to go against you for one reason or another. You can't motivate the team, you can't get the best out of them, and therefore, after a period of weeks, months, or possibly years, you are given the heave-ho. You are fired. Almost without fail, a manager that has failed at any level in the football business will then be given another job. Now, I guess that kind of begs the question, was it the manager's fault, or did they just have players that didn't want to play for the manager? Were they lazy, unmotivated, whatever it might be? And then they get another job. Now, as I say, I'm not pointing any fingers at Mr. Flannery. As I say, I'm sure he's very, very good at his job. But the dust is still settling on all things ISG, and he's gone from one high-profile job to another high-profile job. Are we asking the right questions? I'm going to guess that's Mick. You were crap at the weekend. Mind you, we weren't much better. I thought our second half performance was better, but it was only Everton. We should have beaten them. We didn't. It's not looking good. And I have to say, going back to what I was just saying about football managers, our football manager at the moment, not getting the best out of what he's got. What happened to all the main men at Carillion? They all went elsewhere and will have taken their contracts with them. It's a large part that we piss in. Yeah, Chris, you're absolutely right. That, and bearing in mind the way that a lot of this works, I'm more familiar with the demolition side, but a lot of what makes a demolition man or woman is the very fact that they are well connected. They have their network, and they can, you do find, excuse me, if you've got somebody that is very well connected at one demolition company, if they then jump ship and go to another demolition company, a lot of the times some of their contacts will go with them. So they have a certain value. Somebody's just said that former ISG director joins Waits as regional construction MD. I just had that on the screen. Is that not playing? No, I've switched it off now. But yes, it is a guy called Wayne Flannery. You're absolutely right, whoever it is saying that. And my apologies once again for not being able to follow the threads, because I don't know who is who. I think the Vistry one is a prime example, because it's live at the moment. Now, there is no suggestion that Vistry is going to go down the toilet. 2 profit warnings is not good. £1 billion wiped off your value in a single month, not good. Things are clearly not good. And yet I would imagine, they will still be winning work, and I would imagine there are subcontractors and specialist contractors and plant hirers and scaffolders and Lord alone knows what else, absolutely queuing up at their door to work for Vistry, because Vistry, regardless of the current situation, remains a very, very big and very, very influential name rather. If things do go sideways for Vistry and they go down the toilet, I think everybody amongst us will point at Vistry. Yes, directors, poor management. They didn't heed the warnings and everything else. But what about all those companies that are currently queuing up, falling over themselves to work for Vistry? Are they not reading the news? Are they not seeing the signs? Do they not have their finger on the pulse of the industry? I think individually we tend to do. Unfortunately, I'm now in the habit. If I'm approached to do some work with a company I've not worked with before, unfortunately, and I have to pay for the service. I shouldn't have to do it, but I now run a credit check on pretty much anyone that I work with, unless I know them pretty well or I know somebody that knows them, that kind of thing. So I do tend to do the checks, but is nobody else? You think about somebody like a Vistry, and I hate to pick on them, but let's use them as a prime example. If Vistry wins a new project for the construction of, I don't know, 100, 200, 300 homes in a certain location, you think about all of the people that could be impacted by that. The material suppliers, all of the internal, the plumbing and the electrics and the wiring, all of that, plus the contractors to put it in, plus the laying of the roads, plus. All of those things that could be going on. And there are companies lining up. And if in a month, 2 months, 6 months' time, Vistry does end up on the scrap heap, who do you blame? Do you blame the directors of the company that have driven Vistry into the ground? Possibly. Or do you blame the people that have basically risked everything in the hope that it'll probably be all right? Let's have a look. What we got here? I think that is Mick. Gents, I'm off down the local war memorial. Stay safe. Catch you all later. Enjoy. I'm not entirely sure enjoy is the right word, but you get the idea. Yes, HS2 bat shed hits £100 million. I do need to show you this because I saw this morning, and frankly, sometimes you see a headline and you just think, yeah, the world has officially gone completely stark staring mad. There you are. The cost of building a bat protection tunnel structure on a stretch of the HS2 route in Buckinghamshire has risen to £100 million. It was originally budgeted at 40 million. Call me old-fashioned, but 40 million quid for a bat shed already seems excessive. But it has now risen to 100 million. £100 million for a bat house. And we're not talking bat cave complete with Batmobile. We're talking bat shed. Yeah. HS2 chairman Sir John Thompson confirmed the building he referred to as a shed will now cost 100 million. He said, "This shed, you're not going to believe this, cost more than 100 million pounds to protect the bats in this wood." Are we good with that? Are we good with that? Don't think I am. Let's have a look. I've just been reminded. Minute silence at 11, which is about 6 minutes away. So I will call it a day before then. Is the answer not to overexpose yourself, set a payment term and credit ceiling and stick to it? You'd think. The problem that you tend to have. Hang on a minute. Chris Ford, I do need to share this. The job has gone batty. Thought bats were intelligent enough to avoid traffic on roads. You'd think, wouldn't you? What with them being equipped with radar and what have you. Going back to this one. Is the answer not to overexpose yourself, set a payment term and credit ceiling and stick to it? The problem with that is there's always the promise, isn't there? And I've seen it in both a more toxic way, but also kind of a desperate way where, I know people that have bailed out customers and clients, they're struggling a bit. So, I know we normally do 30 days, but call it 60 and you'll get through the worst and then you can pay me back. And then that never comes. And I think if you're working with, for example, a Vistry or an ISG or a Carillion, you've run up a bill of 100,000, 200,000, £500,000, and they say, that's coming, but we also need this, and there's another 100 grand in it for you. Personally, mine's easy because I only deal in hundreds and thousands, not hundreds of thousands. I deal in hundreds and thousands. And if somebody owes me a couple of grand, I'm literally not lifting a finger to help them until they've cleared their debt. Easier for me, I think. The bats roost in the trees. The shed is built over the line so the bats are not disturbed. Could they not have built something slightly cheaper to do that? You'd think, wouldn't you? You'd think. We all get bitten occasionally. Yeah, we do. But going back to the main premise of that article, and I am going to call it a day before 11, do we really heed the lessons of the past? I mean, think about Grenfell as an example. It's been under investigation, whatever it is, 7 years now, and we've had the findings published. How much? I realise there is now a program to take down cladding that is potentially hazardous, but how much else is out there? For example, we know about asbestos, we know about PCPs and stuff. How much else is out there in the construction industry that could potentially bite us on the arse, but we're just cracking on regardless? And I mean, Carillion was such a big collapse that I remember driving along listening to, I think it was on like Radio 4, and they dedicated about 15 minutes to it, which is a big deal for a construction story. It was such a big deal and so far reaching. And yet 5 or 6 years later, gone through exactly the same process again. And everyone is gnashing their teeth and, oh, isn't it terrible? Why didn't you see it coming? It's not like it's the first. And unfortunately, we've had Carillion, which was big. We've had ISG, which was big. We'll have another and another and another. And I'd say exactly the same about a pandemic. I bought into it. Don't get me wrong. I bought into it completely. Giving the various politicians and national leaders a bit of leeway, because frankly, who could have prepared you for that? I'm sure all of the major leaders around the world have probably got a playbook for some sort of war or military conflict. Did they have one for a pandemic? Probably not, because we've not had one for quite some time. But now we've had one. We're 4 and a bit years on. Is there one now? Is there somewhere tucked away in a drawer at Downing Street? Is there now a playbook? If there is a global pandemic, start at page 1 and work your way through it. I don't think so. I don't think there is. And that is the lesson to be learned of construction. The problem is, once you've done the work, you're in God's hands. You are basically hoping to be paid. There's no guarantees. There's no guarantees you will be paid. There's no guarantee of when you will be paid, how much you will be paid. I've got 1 minute to do this. You think about the business of retentions in this business. If I do £1,000 worth of work in my line of work, if I do £1,000 worth of work, I will raise an invoice for £1,000 and I'll send it to the person that I've done it for. And I will expect and receive, not a check, but I'll get a bank transfer for £1,000. I did £1,000 worth of work. That was what was agreed. That was the invoice amount. That's the amount that comes in. In construction and demolition, I'll bill you £50,000. Well, you can have 10 now, and then you can have 5. And then we'll release 7 and 4 and 6 and what? How are you supposed to budget on that basis? Particularly if you're at the smaller end of the market. I honestly don't know. I've got 30 seconds. So everybody go and I'm going to go on my minute silence because frankly, didn't get to do anything about that yesterday because here, there and everywhere. But yeah, I'm going to sign off. I'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully I'll have fixed Facebook by then and I'll be able to identify you. Until then, everybody have a fantastic day. See you all soon.